Yeah.
Welcome. So glad to have you here with us again. I'm Ivory. This is Roz. And today's topic is aliens among us. I brought a few of my friends here just for the occasion. I want to say hello to our fans in Askervik in Norway. Thanks for being here with us. It's great to know you're there. It's fun when we say hello to you and we get a lot of hellos back. People hear that, get excited, and we just want you to know how much we appreciate you. So let's jump into this topic. We are in Sedona, and it's one of the UFO capitals of the world, lots of UFO activity. And a lot of people are curious about that topic, whether aliens are living among us, whether obviously undetected by the majority of people. What's your thoughts on this, Roz?
Well, I'm pretty convinced that, you know, they're here and they've been here for a long time. So I know that our culture especially, is very controlled and very rigidly regimented to not believe any of that. But, other cultures on our planet are not the same. There are a lot of people from all over the world who actually have had experiences, and there are a lot of experiencers here in our country, but of course they're pretty hesitant to talk about it because because of how things are handled here. We're not the most receptive culturally to these kind of ideas.
When
That
I would
doesn't stop that doesn't create a limitation though.
when I would tell people about my experiences in the 70s, that was shut down. In the 80s, I finally found Whitley Strieber, who became just an amazing support for me and other people who'd had experiences. He really kind of helped me realize I'm not alone with this and pointed me in the direction of a support group for it. And people, it's just like a tribe. We could talk to each other. And now it's so amazing. Like I really hoped there would be a time when we could talk about this more openly and not like lose our credibility in whatever field we're in. And there's more and more people who are opening up about experiences. So we're not talking about alien abductions today. We're not talking about UFO sightings, but more about how aliens are among us. I found something online that I really loved, and it's from Britain's first astronaut, Helen Sharman. And in a interview, she had said aliens definitely exist, and it's possible they are living among us on Earth, unnoticed. She went on to say they may not be carbon and nitrogen life forms like we are. And I think that's a big part of the issue is people keep thinking they're going to be like these aliens in the picture, or they're going to be humanoid. They're going to look like us in some disguise. They have preconceived notions, and they've seen all these sci-fi movies. And it's very possible, first of all, that aliens living among us could be an organism that looks like moss. That is something, a plant-based looking item that could be alien life form that, we don't know how their species would develop on another planet. We can't be so egocentric as to think every being is going to be humanoid.
Well, I think we are that egocentric, a large part of it.
I know we are. I'm saying we cannot be.
So, and therein lies the contrast of the mind. If you can open your mind to embrace, not just allow, but embrace the idea that actually how much we know about what's going on in these other dimensional fields, frequencies, out in the giant universe, it's pretty limited. I kind of get a kick out of it when I hear the scientists going, oh, we've had a communication, from they don't know where. And yeah, wherever. And they still have this narrow little concept of how that's going to work. where in reality, I think a lot of that these beings from other frequencies, dimensional fields, planets, of whatever, they communicate telepathically. So there doesn't really have to be a language. There only
No,
has
there
to be
doesn't.
thought, emotion, your ability to receive. So
I feel kind of bad that I did not know there was a book by the name of Aliens Among Us until after I set this up, and there is one. And then I was looking on Amazon, there's like about 970 books that fall under, if you do a search for that fall under that search, Aliens Among Us.
wow.
So there's a lot happening out there, people writing about it, and then people refuting, oh, that's not proof. And it's like, it's very hard to get proof of interaction with aliens. I'm telling you that right now. But I want to tell you about something, and Roz knows this story. But shortly after I moved to Sedona, I actually on the outskirts of Sedona is this little community in the woods. And I had been there maybe 2 nights, and I was up at the hot tub and the pool, and some people came in there like, did you know that there's a gray living in our neighborhood? Like, excuse me? Like, there's a gray. And they told me where the house was, and I knew that house. And I'm like, So I went and I drove by, and it's a little unassuming looking. It was yellow at the time, little house, and I didn't get any kind of vibe from it. It's just a little house. I'm like, interesting. But then several other residents stopped me. Did you know that there was a gray? I mean, was? And they're like, yeah, they moved out just before you moved in. They described them. We thought they were female, but they had something weird with one arm, and they always kept it covered. And we think there was like an alien arm under there. I'm like, well, if they had a disguise for the rest of their body, why wouldn't they have a disguise for that one hand? But I didn't go there. So, and they said, and they were very strange. And I worked in mental health. There's a lot of people who can be very strange, but they were dead set that was a gray. And I guess it was really small, like 4'2" person or being, but they said that they were very isolative, and that everyone was dead set they had lived in that particular house. So I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if that was truth or one of the interesting things you can expect when you move to Sedona. It's a very much more overall open community to the topic of aliens, and which is kind of refreshing because I like hearing these things. I like talking about different things. I don't want conversations to be shut down. But the truth is, I don't know the answer to that, whether that was true or not. But Roz and I have both had interactions, and before the show started, I was telling Roz, I think you guys would really like to hear about some of her experiences with ultra terrestrials, which are alien beings who have extremely high frequency. They always, to me, feel the same as angels do, and their intentions feel high and pure like angels. So they want the best for mankind. But Roz, you have had some amazing experiences there in the office where she's sitting right now.
I have to say, I don't have like a narrow little mindset about what should be happening, but I've had some stunners since I moved to this office. My first encounter with, as we would call them, aliens, was actually when I was 10. So and I think back on all the different things that happened and all the things that I've seen, and I've had a long history of this. I just never really thought about it. It was like, oh yeah, that happened. Okay, well, it's Tuesday, I gotta go. Whatever. But I've had some amazing, I see things very clearly. A lot of times I'm very visual and very auditory. So I see a lot of things that I think come through into my line of vision and hearing and everything. And the most interesting thing that happened was one day I was sitting in my office, as I am today. And I always say this prayer in the morning, and I just say, send me the people that need my help today, and let me be of service. And send me whatever information it is that I need to convey to them that they need. In comes literally, I mean, like a bolt of lightning. This being came in, and he was almost as tall as our ceiling. And we do not have 8-foot ceilings here. I think they're like 10, probably. And he was like a rainbow. He was all dressed in white. He had the bluest eyes, looked like the ocean down in the Bahamas. It was incredible. Very porcelain white appearance, lots of aura, lots of energy field around him. And my usual response, I'm like going, whoa. And then I said, why are you here? What do you want? And he just smiled. And I knew immediately that something big was about to happen. And I was like, okay, bring it on. I'm ready. Very shortly thereafter, in our door here, a person walked in. She actually kind of looked like him. Very tall, Nordic looking, the blue eyes, the very pale skin, blonde hair. And she told me that she was driving by on I-40, going from the West Coast to the East Coast. And she had been told by a friend of hers who's very psychically intuitive, but also she just got it, that she needed to come to Sedona to see someone. And when she opened her phone, my face came up. So, I mean, that sounds like a movie, but that's exactly what really happened. And that probably was the most, like, talk about awakening. I was stunned.
I remember that day. I was there and I didn't see it, but I'm in the other end of the office.
Right. And where this being entered was actually not directly in my office, although I could see, hear, and feel the arrival. And I came out, and Ed was here that day, I think. And I said, do you see that? He's like, no, what is it? And I could clearly see this amazing energy of love and the resonance and everything. And that was probably the most stunningly waking up my perception, because let's face it, I mean, I've done this all my life, and I mean, I've had these abilities, but I just don't think about it that way.
I know what you mean about having these experiences and not thinking about it. I remember when I was telling you, I had realized that my memories from about 3-4 years old, when we lived in the country in Urbana, Maryland, and my dad would mow this field in a spiral, and the center was a playhouse for my sister and I. And my memories of it, which I never thought about till I was well into my 40s, was of looking at it from above and pulling straight up and seeing my little sister looking up at me, and just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I just never thought about that. And there's only one thing that could be. So especially as fast as we were going up. And I remember that a lot. So that was my first memory of these alien beings, interactions with them. But there were many, many over the years. And my daughter has had a number of interesting experiences with them as well. But in the way that they live with us, when you're talking about the office, Roz, like I have not had that experience, but there's been multiple times. It was first in Terry Ann's office, talking to her when she was there with us, then in my office multiple times, and now here at my house a few times. This thing, just this being just pops up. It's about 3 feet tall, and it looks like really bright, shiny white shiny crystals. And it's got a real sharp edge because it's like a bunch of crystals. That's the being. And it feels extremely high frequency, and it pops up, and it like sees what's going on, and then it goes away. It's happened during client sessions, here during client sessions. It is an interdimensional being, which is, you can look at that as it's not from another planet, it's from another dimension. But sometimes it's really hard to tell whether something is an alien, and it can be an ultra terrestrial, again, like that super high frequency, beautiful love intention, not just not like using us for scientific experiments kind of alien. But as far as those, Roz's boyfriend Ed really helped me, because I had these beings that were coming to me that would show up over my bed, and they were alien beings, and they were about 5-6 foot in diameter. I got a hiccup. And they were royal blue but translucent, and then the center had like opalescence. And they would hover a few feet over my bed and take up most of the room between the bed and the ceiling. And I could feel them. They were communicating with me, but I don't know what they were saying. Like, I could feel it. I was receiving something, but I couldn't feel it. But I could feel that I wasn't afraid. I was just really curious about what it was. And it happened many times. And when I told Ed, Roz's boyfriend, he's like, "Oh, those are the blue sphere people." So, there's things that can come to you that can be completely alien. And I don't mean like from another world alien. I mean so alien to you, like you've never seen anything like that, couldn't have imagined something like it. But tune into how you feel. We've talked about that on other subjects. Tune into how you feel. If you don't feel darkness from them, you don't feel a threat from them, then you don't need to be threatened. Yeah.
You can almost always determine if something has a negative intention for you, because that frequency is very heavy and very intense. And your perceptivity to that frequency is probably much higher than you would ever imagine. So if it feels good, and if it feels like they have the best intention for you, you can relax a little bit. I think most people, and this is so interesting because for the last 5 years here in the office, I have had so many people come to see me who have been experiencing these connections with interdimensional beings all their lives, but they never talked about it. Yeah. They never told anybody. And because of our podcast, they felt comfortable to come in.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which is a wonderful thing, because if you have something happen to you that you can never explain, and that kind of keeps it in the scary category, and then you can just sit down and discuss, well, this is what happened. And of course, I'm the last person who ever questions anything. I tune in immediately and I'm going, oh, I'm getting this.
You don't want to miss out on an amazing interaction, an amazing experience, because you let fear take over because it's something you've never seen before. And another thing that comes to my mind that I actually think about frequently was when this group of beings came to me, and I do feel like they were from another planet. And they looked like they were carved out of stone. They were about 8 feet tall. I just opened my eyes one night, and they're standing next to my bed between me and my bay window. And they're totally still. and they had their arms crossed like this, and they had long it looked like carved pointed beards and some kind of headdress on, and all carved. And one of them, as I'm looking at it, they didn't say anything, they didn't move, but the one closest to me opens his hands like this, and in his hands was this glowing green object that was rectangular with rounded edges, and it was very neon green. And I didn't know, I was just mesmerized. I didn't feel afraid. I just felt mesmerized. And then it was one of those things where they disappeared. And then later I'm like, why didn't I just reach out and take whatever that was in their hands? And that's where I think I got mesmerized. I can't say I was afraid, but I was mesmerized by the moment. And I might have missed out on something interesting by taking that. Maybe, I don't know what that was. Maybe somebody listening, watching has had that experience and took that green object. Please let me know. I'm very curious, but that was the only time they came to me. I know Terry Ann, who used to work with us, Terry Ann Russell, is really into the star seeds, more into that. And she was saying that she felt like they were a high council, and I agree, but it felt like they were a high council from another planet. They did not have the frequency of interdimensional beings, but they didn't hurt anything. They didn't leave anything behind. They didn't do anything. Except opening the hands and offering me whatever that glowing green object was. Think it was the Philosopher's Stone?
I think it was something extremely powerfully oriented to peace, love, and goodwill. So yeah.
Come back, I'll take the green stone. Any other experiences you've had you can think of, Roz?
Well, I do see, it's interesting because the energy field of our office, especially this office in this location, is extremely powerful, I think. I'm not convinced it's a vortex, but there's definitely some type of a portal in the area where our office is, because I just have too many. I mean, I'm a medium, of course, so I'm gonna have spirits coming in and out, but you and I both experienced, when we were in this office, tremendous number of spirits that we would see and coming in and out. And I also do see these, otherworldly. I don't think of them so much as aliens, but otherworldly, representations of what I consider to be different species almost of people. And it's interesting because I have a client that I worked with a few years back who actually experienced entities coming into her that looked like insects. They were green, totally, non-aggressive, non-frightening, not just a different appearance. And she wasn't freaked out by them. She could feel that they had loving and good intention.
Were they large insects, like human size?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Bigger.
Oh, even bigger. See,
yeah.
I think something being like foreign and like a giant insect would put fear in a lot of people who don't know that not all aliens are trying to experiment on us and abduct us, and they don't want to take over our planet, steal our resources. It's interesting too, Roz, because like online, when you look this up, scientists pretty much across the board are of the opinion, mathematically, they say that the odds are if an alien race made themselves known to us here on the planet, it wouldn't look good for us, because they probably wouldn't even want to communicate with us, because would we want to communicate with ants? That's how they put it. Like, we might be seen as just like ants to them. And also that if they're roaming around looking at different planets, they're probably looking for resources. and they would try to take ours. And I'm like, that all felt real fear-based to me. I think that's a real fear-based view of what it would be like to have the world know aliens are among us, aliens are here.
Well, and that's an assumption probably based on, I mean, humans, I'm sorry, but we're just not all that. We are violent, we are aggressive. We're the ultimate in going out and stealing resources
And
from each
selfish.
other.
As a whole, the human race is pretty selfish. So that moves us down on the evolution compared to planets that have been evolving for millions and maybe more years, becoming more cerebral, be able to feel unconditional love, compassion.
I think that unconditional love is so difficult for many of our species to even think about.
You have to raise your frequency high enough to start at least partially living and accessing the 9th dimension. And right now, as we talked about last week, I think that we're all shifting as a planet into the 5th dimension, but there are people who are completely living in higher dimensions, but most of us have parts of us living in even higher dimensions. And it depends on how you're lifting your frequency and bringing that up too. That's really important. Like if you're interested in seeing ultra terrestrials, you're interested in seeing these aliens who are among us, then you need to raise your frequency, because I feel like it's generally the people who consciously work on raising their frequency, radiating love, lifting themselves up above the fear, anger, hatred going on right now. Those are the ones that the aliens are coming to and the ultra terrestrials are coming to, because they can feel your frequency and they know that you're a safe person to go to, and that you are ready to receive some of their messages or their knowledge. So work on your frequency. That's my best advice.
I think that really says it in a nutshell. If you want to advance and you want to connect, I mean, and we've discussed dark attacks and we've discussed low frequency beings. We all deal with those kind of things. I mean, so you have to have that knowledge that you need to be working on your own frequency and your own issues.
We're never going to raise our consciousness as a planet by responding to hatred with hatred, or responding to anger with anger, responding to distrust with distrust. Only by shining your light brighter and radiating more love out can we hope to break through that and raise higher as a planet. And it's not easy. It is not easy to rise above that. But that's what these other planets are doing. And I think that's why a lot of these aliens are hesitant to make themselves known to more people, because there's so much fear over the unknown. So if you can rein in your fear and be more open to aliens coming through, because maybe they want to help elevate us. Maybe they see there's a portion of us, a good number of us, who are ready to go higher, who are ready to maybe join a galactic group of planets. Who knows? I mean, I'm open to that. I'm really interested in that. I'd like to know what's out there more. I'd like to have more conscious recall of the information they give me. I would like to have more interactions than I already have, which is quite a lot. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about was, this was interesting. This is the former defense minister, a federal defense minister, Paul Hellyer. And this was in an interview. He insists that ETs have contributed significantly to our culture and technology in a helpful way. He went on to say that he believes microchips and fiber optics probably came from crashed vehicles of ETs. That is not new, but for some of you, it might be new information, or especially to hear that a former federal defense minister would say those things. But it's more people who are high level, intelligent, connected, respected coming out with these things. And especially, I don't think it's a coincidence that there's more people like that coming out and talking about UFOs and how they're real. And that was, it's been covered up, it's been hidden because they think the public can't handle it is a big part of it. So I think that that's very powerful and brave of them to come out and make statements like that. And it's so helpful for people to hear real conservative, respected people tell us those things. These are not crackpots. These are not conspiracy theorists. These are people who worked in the military, the government, who are coming out, astronauts saying these things. And, they have a lot to lose by saying this. So I do respect them.
True.
Anything else you want to say about aliens among us, Roz?
Just embrace the idea, if you can, that these are actually beings of love and compassion, and they are not interested in doing any harm. Unfortunately, I think they probably recognize the fact that, we would probably do them harm in many cases. Because sadly, we have a lot of people who, if they saw someone that was recognizably not human, they'd want to shoot them. Let's face it. We're shooting each other.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, they have less reason to want to visit us now.
That's another realization of the need to raise your frequency so that you can be receptive and you can send out that love and that light of love.
And I think more and more people are going to be experiencing these visits. And if you're disappointed that we're not talking about aliens working with us and going to the grocery store with us, I can't find anything to substantiate that, but we can only tell you about our personal experiences and what I did find online that seems substantiated. I'm not sure if that's how it works. And if there's people out there who've experienced that, we'd love to hear from you. But in our experience, it's been more that they do come to us, the ones that they feel safe coming to, or that they know we're open to their visit. So if you are that, you can put that statement out there too and just say every night, I welcome any high frequency ETs to come through and visit with me anytime. I would love that. I'd love to hear anything you say, form a relationship. They need to hear that from as many of us as possible, so more of them feel safe coming here.
Cool.
And hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I imagine so. These are usually our highest rated episodes. Join us next week. Our topic is spiritual experiences on mushrooms. I'm bringing this up because there's states considering now legalizing psychedelic mushrooms, particularly for therapy use, because there's so much research of how helpful, and it's actually, they've known since the 60s how helpful it is for a lot of things like PTSD and depression. And so now they're finally coming back around to saying, we're going to start allowing that to be used again. And we're going to talk about that. And in the meantime, we hope that you have a remarkable day. We'll see you next week.